Every year, thousands of traders enter the markets, and yet over 90% of them fail. Not because they didn't learn the strategies, not because they didn't study the charts, but because they could not master the one thing that decides their fate: discipline. One click, that's all it takes, to buy or to sell. Trading looks easy, but what if I told you the hardest part of trading has nothing to do with charts, strategies, or technicals? The hardest part is you. It's the invisible battle of discipline, and it feels heavier than trading itself. Let's strip trading down to its basics. The mechanics are simple. Learn a strategy, spot a setup, execute the trade. That's it. The platforms are designed to make execution effortless. One tap on your phone, one click on your mouse. Easy, almost too easy. But discipline is not mechanical. It is psychological. And psychology is never easy. Psychologists call this ego depletion, the mental fatigue caused by constant self-control. Just as lifting a dumbbell repeatedly exhausts your muscles, resisting temptation drains your willpower. In trading, this looks like resisting the urge to enter when your plan says no trade, waiting patiently for hours while the market gives no signals, cutting losses quickly even though every cell in your body screams to hold a little longer. Every act of restraint burns mental energy, and unlike physical exhaustion, this kind of fatigue is invisible. You don't see it, you feel it. That's why discipline weighs more than any technical skill. Open the internet and you'll find endless strategies, moving averages, Fibonacci retracements, candlestick patterns. Most of them are simple to learn. A weekend of study, and you could understand the basics. That's why millions enter the market every year, believing they've cracked the code. But simplicity is deceptive, because what looks easy in theory becomes nearly impossible in practice. Why? Because your mind refuses to obey your knowledge when money is on the line. Imagine this. You know your stop loss is minus 2%. The chart drops to minus 2.5%. Knowledge says, exit now. Emotion says, hold. It might bounce. In that single moment, discipline is harder than all the strategies you've ever learned. Discipline isn't about the market. It's about you. The hardest enemy to fight is not volatility, not institutions, not algorithms. It's the reflection staring back at you in the monitor. Greed whispers, take one more trade. Double down. Fear shouts, get out. Save yourself. Boredom tempts. This is too slow. Force a trade. In reality, trading is 10% charts and 90% self-mastery. Discipline is a firewall that protects you from yourself. Without it, even the best strategy becomes a suicide mission. Studies confirm this. A report from the University of California showed that only 1% of day traders consistently make money, not because the other 99% didn't learn strategies, but because they couldn't follow them with discipline. Think about it. If trading was purely about knowledge, every student of finance would be a millionaire. But they're not. Why? Because discipline doesn't come from books. It comes from pain, practice, and persistence. Here's the paradox. Discipline feels like suffering, while trading feels like freedom. But only one leads to survival. Why does discipline hurt so much? It goes against your instincts. Humans evolved to seek immediate rewards. Discipline demands delayed gratification. It feels unnatural. Your brain craves dopamine, excitement from constant action. Discipline is boring, like watching paint dry. It feels endless. Unlike a trade, which has an entry and exit, discipline has no finish line. You must practice it every single day, forever. In short, trading is an act. Discipline is a lifestyle. Discipline in trading is like training for a marathon. Anyone can sprint for a minute, but only those with endurance survive the distance. Traders who lack discipline are sprinters in a marathon. They start strong but collapse halfway. Just like an athlete lifts weights not to win a medal but to build invisible strength, a trader exercises discipline not for immediate profit, but for long-term survival. Example 1. The impulsive trader. Starts with $5,000. Doubles it in a week through aggressive bets. Loses everything in a single trade because he couldn't follow his stop loss. Example 2. The disciplined trader. Starts with $5,000. Grows 2 to 3% monthly. After 5 years, portfolio reaches 6 figures. Not because of luck, but because of consistency. Discipline is not a gift. It is built like a muscle. Here's how. Pre-plan every trade. Enter only if it matches your written criteria. Journal your emotions. Write down how you felt during trades. Awareness reduces impulsive mistakes. Use automation. Set stop losses and alerts. Let systems enforce discipline when your emotions rebel. Limit exposure. 1 or 2 trades a day. Don't feed greed with endless entries. Practice patience. Walk away when tempted. Sometimes the best trade is no trade at all. The market doesn't reward you for being smart. It rewards you for being disciplined. Every trade you don't take, every impulse you don't follow, is a silent victory. You may not see it in your balance immediately, but you'll see it in your survival. Trading is easy. Discipline is hard, but only one decides your fate. Remember, the greatest trade you'll ever make is trading your impulses for discipline, because without discipline, trading is just gambling, and with discipline, it becomes freedom. Every year, millions step into the markets with hope. They read the books. They watch the tutorials. They learn the strategies. And yet, statistics reveal a brutal truth. Over 90% of traders fail. Why? Not because they don't know enough. Not because strategies don't work. But because when the moment of truth arrives, knowledge collapses and discipline disappears. Let's face the numbers. Studies show more than 80% of day traders quit within the first 2 years. Only 1% consistently make money long-term. If this was just about learning charts, these numbers wouldn't exist. Because knowledge is everywhere. Free videos, books, courses. But still, most fall. That proves something deeper. The real enemy isn't lack of knowledge. It's lack of discipline. Think about this. The average trader knows the basics. Don't risk more than you can afford. Always set a stop loss. Trade only when your setup appears. Simple rules. Yet how many actually follow them? Almost none. Because the human mind is wired to betray itself. Knowledge whispers one thing. Emotion screams another. And in the battle between logic and emotion, emotion wins. Meet Adam. He studied for months, practiced on demos, memorized every indicator. On his first live trade, the market went against him. His stop loss was hit, but instead of exiting, he moved it. Then he moved it again. Within hours, his account was gone. Adam didn't fail because he lacked knowledge. He failed because he lacked discipline to obey it. Now meet Sarah. She had a perfect setup. But as the candle formed, fear gripped her. What if it fails? She hesitated. She skipped the trade. And the market moved exactly as her plan predicted. Her knowledge was right. Her discipline was weak. Why does this happen to almost everyone? Because the human brain is not designed for markets. Loss aversion. Losing hurts twice as much as winning feels good. Overconfidence. A few wins make us believe we're invincible. Impatience. The brain craves instant rewards, but markets reward patience. Discipline is unnatural. And what is unnatural feels unbearable. That's why 90% of traders surrender. Not the market, but to their own instincts. Here's the cruel paradox. Knowledge is easy to gain, but discipline is almost impossible to keep. You can finish a course in a weekend, but you can't build discipline in a weekend. That takes months, years, sometimes a lifetime. And this gap between knowing what to do and doing what you know is where 90% of traders fall. The market is the world's greatest truth machine. It doesn't care how much you know. It only cares how much discipline you can keep. Break your rules once. It will punish you. Lose patience once. It will punish you. Chase greed once. It will punish you. That's why success feels so rare. Because following discipline every single day is harder than learning strategies once. Look at the survivors. They are not the smartest. They are not the fastest. They are the most disciplined. They trade less, not more. They risk small, not big. They cut losses fast, not late. They know something the 90% ignore. Trading is not about making money fast. It's about staying alive long enough to grow slow. Here's a truth you cannot escape. Discipline is painful, but regret is unbearable. The disciplined trader feels pain in the moment, the pain of cutting a loss, the pain of waiting, the pain of holding back. But the undisciplined trader feels the pain of regret, watching an account vanish, watching dreams collapse, watching years wasted. Choose your pain wisely, because one pain builds you, the other destroys you. So, how do you escape the 90%? The answer is not more knowledge. It's deeper discipline. Set rules and obey them blindly. Accept boredom as part of the job. Focus on survival, not excitement. Every day you stay disciplined, you step further away from the 90% and closer to the 10% who endure. Over 90% fail, not because they didn't know enough, but because they couldn't control themselves. The market doesn't need you to be a genius. It needs you to be disciplined. And the moment you master that truth, you no longer belong to the 90%. You rise into the 10% where survival becomes success. In trading, the hardest decision is not when to enter, but when to walk away. True victory does not come from the trades you take. It comes from the trades you resist. The power of restraint is the line that separates gamblers from traders. Humans crave action. Our brains are wired to believe that doing something is better than doing nothing. That's why most traders struggle with patience. The market opens, the charts move, and silence feels unbearable. Every tick screams, do something, take the trade. And so, traders force entries that never existed. But in reality, the market does not reward activity. It rewards discipline. And sometimes, discipline means waiting in silence. Taking a trade is easy. One click, and the brain feels a rush of dopamine, excitement, anticipation, the thrill of being in the game. Resisting a trade, however, feels like starvation. It feels like deny yourself food when you are hungry or water when you are thirsty. That's why restraint feels harder than risk. Yet restraint is where the real strength lies, because every unnecessary trade avoided is a loss prevented, and every prevented loss is silent profit. Think of the graveyard of trading accounts. Most are not destroyed by lack of opportunity. They are destroyed by too much action. One forced trade becomes two. Two become 10. Soon, discipline evaporates and the account bleeds dry. Ironically, if most traders had simply done nothing, if they had resisted just a few trades, their accounts would have survived. The graveyard is filled not with those who waited too long, but with those who couldn't wait at all. Why does restraint feel so impossible? Because the market preys on human instincts. Fear of missing out. FOMO the chart spikes, and you believe you're missing your one chance. Greed for constant wins. You want proof of progress every day, every hour. Impatience. Waiting feels like weakness, while action feels like control. But the truth is the opposite. Waiting is power, and action without reason is weakness. The trader who waits holds control over himself. The trader who cannot wait is controlled by the market. Consider two traders. James sees no setups for 3 days. He forces a trade anyway. It fails, wiping out his week's profits. Maria sees no setups for 3 days. She does nothing. Her balance remains the same, untouched, safe. On day 4, her setup appears, and she executes perfectly. She profits. One trader needed excitement. The other needed discipline. That's why Maria survives where James collapses. Victory was not in her trade. It was in the 3 days she refused a trade. The market is a master illusionist. It shows you movement to tempt you, but not every movement is opportunity. Just like a fisherman cannot catch every fish, a trader cannot take every candle. The professionals know this. They wait for high-probability setups, like predators waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Amateurs chase every shadow, every flicker, and tire themselves to death. In the end, the one who waits always wins, because the market rewards patience more than prediction. Think of restraint not as an action, but as invisible profit. Every bad trade resisted is money saved. Every reckless entry avoided is capital preserved. If you avoided 3 losing trades this week, you may not see a gain in your balance, but in reality, you earn more than the gambler who lost them. Resisting is not absence. Resisting is presence of mind, presence of control, presence of mastery. Restraint is not just financial, it is spiritual. To resist temptation is to prove mastery over yourself. Ancient philosophers taught this. Stoics believe that true strength comes not from chasing desires, but from controlling them. The same is true in trading. The market is a mirror. It reflects your impulses, your fears, your greed. Every moment of restraint is a victory of spirit, a step closer to freedom. But how do you resist when temptation feels unbearable? The answer is practice. Create a checklist. If the setup doesn't meet criteria, you don't trade. Period. Limit your trades. Maximum 2 per day. When the limit is hit, walk away. Reward restraint. Celebrate days when you avoided bad trades. They are victories too. Shift perspective. Remember, survival is success. You don't need to trade every day to grow every year. Like a monk trains his mind through meditation, a trader trains his discipline through resistance. Every time you say no, you grow stronger. The world celebrates action. Headlines scream about big trades, big risks, big profits. Nobody celebrates the trader who resisted, who walked away. But understand this. The invisible victories are the ones that build lasting success. The trades you didn't take will never make the news, but they will keep your account alive. True victory in trading is not in the wins you chase, but in the losses you never allow. It is not in the trades you take, but in the trades you resist. Because restraint is not weakness. Restraint is power. And the moment you master it, you stop gambling and you start trading.